Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Mike Armstrong podcast show. And this evening, or this afternoon in stateside, we're joined by Greg Kettner, who is a sales speaker and coach based in Walla Walla, Washington State, in the US of A. And how are you doing today, Greg? You okay?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me on. This is great.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thanks for coming on. And a place I usually like to start with people is sort of how the lockdown has been for them, really. And it was a question I've been asking people all through the lockdown, which is I started my podcast at the start of the lockdown. And then
Okay.
I stopped asking it for a couple of weeks. And it seems to be a good question to ask because a lot of places are going back into lockdown, especially in the
Yeah.
UK here. So how's it been for you, all this sort of tumultuous period?
It's I'm doing well, but it's been crazy. It's been all over the map. I had a job when COVID started, and now I'm transitioned full time into speaking and coaching. But yeah, it's just been weird. And what is it like there now? Like, I mean, we go out when we go out, we have to wear a mask, but there's no and social distancing. But it's not like it seems like at the beginning it was like you're gonna die if you breathe somebody else's air.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, well,
um,
I think in the UK we're sort of going into a bit of a lockdown situation again, but not as lockdown as the first time, but just a bit more regulation than just wearing a mask when you're indoors and
yeah,
socially distancing. So I'm waiting to see. To be honest with you, I don't watch a lot of the news because it's depressing.
good.
And I'm a positive person. I can't be bothered listening to that crap constantly.
Yeah,
So I just dip in and out of it every now and then, and you catch the important stuff on social media, and the rest of it. I find with the news, they just go over the same thing, looking at it from every angle, and having other. Sometimes the news is what other people's perception of the news is or opinion of the news. It's like I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in opinion. I just want the news. Give me the facts,
yeah,
and let's move on.
yeah. Well, I half joke that I believe the coronavirus will be gone by November 4th, which is the day after the election.
Okay. Yeah, well, what's his name? Trump is like he's turned the coronavirus into some sort of like kryptonite, and now he's
Yeah,
Superman.
exactly. It'll be gone for the whole world. It'll go back to China. It'll all go back up in this little bottle. It'll be good to go. Till the next guy.
It was the only. Well, I did see Trump saying about he was going to put this vaccine that he trialed or whatever onto into all the hospitals and stuff. So I thought Trump must own that vaccine.
Exactly. I don't know if I take that same stuff.
No, no, definitely not. But yeah, so you've done quite a bit of transitioning then, I guess, over this period.
Yeah, and it's been interesting. But on the bright side, I started a Facebook group called the Humor Lab. There may have been a bottle or two of wine involved, but I was stuck in my house. I was at that time I was still working from home, and I'm a horrible introvert, totally 100% extrovert. And I'm like, how am I going to be able to communicate and laugh and connect with people? And so I just started this group called the Humor Lab, and it took me 15, 20 minutes. I sent it out to 20 people that night and said, hey, please share if you want to laugh. I woke up and there's 150 people signed up.
That's good. There's a
And
lot of people
now,
wanting to laugh at the moment.
yeah, and now we're over 9,000.
Oh, good. That's gone good.
So
That's gone quick then.
yeah, it's gone really quick. But the thing that's been really cool about it is I set it up, it's PG-13, and there's no politics.
Okay.
And I banish people, and people are like, well, it's my right
It's your
to
group.
free speech. And I said, it's my right to unfriend you.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
So 9,000. So are they all comedians or comics or just people who like a laugh?
no, just regular people. I've got people from I don't know 16 or 17 countries now,
Yeah.
and every couple of days I get a message. People will say, thank you so much for doing this. I look at it every day. Or one guy sent me, I don't even know the guy, but he sent me a message, and you know what, this has been really hard on me. I've lost my job. I lost my wife. I've got 2 kids. And he goes, every day I check in and it makes my day. And so
Yeah.
that right there is worth doing the whole group.
Well, it's good. It's good to have a laugh, isn't it? Like, you know what I mean? And I joined it. I did join the group. I remember you
Oh,
sent
good.
out a link at some point.
Yeah,
And I haven't, you know, I'm a member of a lot of groups, so it takes a bit of time before you get
yeah,
into it and start liking stuff before it starts moving up its priority in your mind
yeah,
and in your list. But I'll definitely, you know, try and get involved in that because I like a laugh and a joke myself. And
yeah.
you know, who doesn't? Like life's too long to be serious all the time. You
Yeah,
know?
and it's great to see other people's personalities and what makes them laugh, right? I
Yeah.
mean, there's people on there that put puns, which I don't think are funny.
Mm.
But then there's one guy who posts a lot of dad jokes.
Yeah.
So it's great, and it'd be fun. I'm trying to get people to be more adventurous and like tell a joke, and maybe I'll do that. Have an open mic night if people can just get on like we are right now
With
and
some
just
lives, like with some
tell a
Facebook
joke.
lives. Yeah,
Pardon?
with some Facebook lives. Do some
Yeah,
lives within
yeah, no,
the
absolutely.
group. Well, I think
So
those groups are turning into like community centres. You know,
yeah,
where different people go on and they have a dance or they tell jokes or you know what I mean. They're like niche community centres online, and I think
yep,
they're just going to keep developing and keep growing. So I've got a few groups of my own, and yeah, you know, I think they're great, and a lot of people use them as well to sell courses or all
uh-huh.
that sort of thing as well. Like to the community. Is that a route that you're going to go down as well?
Yeah, eventually, and I'm working on that. And what I speak about is I did stand up comedy for 12 years, and I still do it. But I now am sharing with businesses how to empower their sales teams to have more fun at work.
Yeah,
Everybody feels like they want to be valued, right? You talk
yeah,
to anybody, what do you hate about your job? Well, nobody respects me, nobody listens to me, nobody cares about me. And if you have laughter and have fun, as you and I know, right? You have
yeah.
a good laugh, you have a chuckle, you feel a lot better. There's less stress, more productivity. It helps everybody.
You also do a lot more business because if work is a place of fun and humor and laughter, we both come from sales backgrounds, if you like. So,
Yep.
it is part of the sales environment, I suppose, to have a laugh and a joke and stuff. And part of
Yep.
sales is a tough job. And if you don't laugh and, find ways of making it enjoyable, then you probably wouldn't stick at it for a long time. And, I've been selling for over 30 years. So I must be able
Yeah.
to enjoy it some way or another, like.
Yeah, no, you got me beat. I'm 27, but and the other thing with laughter, if you can connect, it's a common language, right? If you're laughing with somebody, you're connecting with them, and that what has helped me stand out over my career. The
Yeah,
fact that when I'm prospecting or even working with clients, I can make them laugh. That's memorable, right? They're like,
yeah.
"Oh
Well,
yeah, I worked with Greg. He was great. Made me
yeah,
laugh."
yeah.
So
I used to do a lot of corporate hospitality in my job because I used to deal with key
okay,
accounts, 10 million plus
yeah,
turnover businesses, the top businesses in the UK. And
yeah,
when you take people out, you have a drink or for some food, whatever, have a laugh with them, connect with them on a human level rather than on
yeah,
a professional corporate level, and people
yeah,
will buy from you even if you haven't got the best product sometimes because they
yeah.
connect with you.
Right? Oh, no, I'll take the second grade product if I can hang out with Mike or Greg.
Yeah, exactly. People buy people at the end of the day. They buy people they like to have a laugh and a joke with. They buy people who are going to entertain them. They buy people who are interesting. Life's
Yeah,
too, like I say, life's too short to be serious all of the time. And people want to have a laugh and a joke at work. And if it's between three very similar proposals and very similar prices, but one comes with an account manager or somebody with a bit of personality, you're going to win over
absolutely.
on the other two, like So, it's
Yeah,
not just a staff longevity thing for keeping the staff interested and keeping their mental health well and all the rest of that. It's actually a
yeah,
results-driven strategy too,
yeah. No, and speaking of mental health, I know it was World Mental Health Day a couple of days ago, and it's so key to get out of our own heads and laugh about things that make us laugh. I mean, we're all different, right? I'm into stand-up comedy. That's my thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of the memes that you see out there are fantastic, and it's good to laugh. It releases those endorphins, and you can turn your day around.
Yeah, I'm a massive
So,
stand-up comedy fan as well. I watch a lot of stand-up comedy, so
yeah. Who do you like? Who do you watch? Do you?
I watch everybody. People, some of the names that I think you might know. You mentioned Ricky Gervais earlier on. I don't mind a bit of Ricky Gervais,
Yeah,
but I like
yeah.
trying to think of some names. You know, some Brits. I like people like um, McIntyre, Michael McIntyre. I like
Yeah.
the northern guy. You know, big guy. Does Show Me the Way to
Oh, yeah,
Amarillo.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. No,
I
yeah,
like
his name slips me.
Russell
Jimmy
Kane.
Carr is good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. There's the
yeah,
guy Russell Kane, Russell Brand.
yeah,
I like
yeah,
Russell Howard, who's on Sky.
yeah.
Do you know if you know all of this? So
You're a big
Russell.
Russell fan.
I'm a big Russell fan. Yeah. Um, who else do I like? I like all types of humour. And I like all types of stand-up. I like people like Tim Vine who do like short, sharp jokes, quick jokes all of the time.
Yeah,
But I like people who do
yeah.
observational humour. There's a really good guy, actually, a Scottish guy. Very very controversial. He's a bit like
Okay.
like a mild Chubby Brown. I used to watch a lot of Chubby Brown. Have you heard of him? Younger and
Yeah, or George Carlin back in the day too,
yeah,
where he tiptoed the line, but he made a point.
yeah. I used to like some of the big stuff like Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy, and
Yeah,
they're the stuff that you would know American wise. But I've watched comedy all my life, so
yeah,
I like every type of comedy really. I love watching. There's a program on at the moment on ITV. Jonathan Ross, he's breaking comedians in because comedians aren't getting opportunities to do gigs at the moment. So they've got a
yeah,
TV program. There's a lot of up and coming kids. I like most people with sense of humor. There's a lot of good females at the moment. There's a girl called Catherine Ryan. She's Canadian.
yeah,
I noticed you've got a Canadian T-shirt in your background there. Are you
yeah.
from
Our
Canada?
hockey team.
Is that your hockey team? Are you from Canada or you just like the
Yeah,
team?
originally from Canada, live in the States now. Born in Hong Kong, so I'm kind of a
Oh,
mutt.
is it? Yeah. You're a global citizen.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, I'm from Wales, which is next to England, and you're from
Yeah,
Canada, which is next to America. And Welsh and Canadians always get on because they're
yeah,
like the little brother of the big
yeah.
annoying neighbor.
Well, isn't America next to England too? I mean, there's an ocean, but it's right
Yeah,
next
well, yeah,
door.
sort of. For a while, it was part of England.
Yeah. And then they had that fight, that
Yeah,
brotherly fight.
they had a bit of a to do, but there we are. That's why, like in all of the American movies, it's always Brits as the bad guys,
Yeah.
whereas in our movies, the Germans are always bad guys, like you know what I mean?
And the Germans don't like to laugh, from what I know.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. But yeah, so Catherine Ryan, she's really good. There's a woman called Shappy Kasandi
Okay.
the UK. She's like Iranian,
Yeah.
so she's
Oh,
really
I
funny.
think I've heard of her. Yeah.
Yeah,
Really
she's
good.
really
Really
funny.
funny.
I could list comedians
Yeah.
non-stop. Lee Evans for his slapstick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am
I, uh,
I'm a big comedy fan, so
yeah, I ran into I don't know who the guys are, but it's on YouTube. It's called The Awkward Puppets. And it's, it's, this guy goes to the doctor, but he's just two puppets. And it's absolutely hilarious, but it's called Awkward Puppets. So if you
yeah,
get a chance, check them out on YouTube.
I'll check it out. Yeah, I'll check it out. But
Yeah, I think you'd be able to understand them. They're in English, so.
yeah. The thing is, American humor. So I much prefer obviously British comedians than
Yeah,
Americans because it's a different type of
yeah,
humor. But I do watch some Americans. But I think for me, what I've seen from my perspective, from the UK looking at Americans, is the comedy
yeah,
scene in America is much more about like roastings and stuff. It's much more about. It's a bit like the rap battle of comedy where it's like roasting
yeah,
each other and stuff. That's what I
yeah,
see from my side.
yeah. No, there's a lot of that, and there's a lot of guys do political stuff. I
Yeah,
really appreciate the British humor. It's more uh, truth telling, maybe. Like they're talking about issues, but they're doing it in a funny and smart way. They're not just throwing stuff against the wall. Like
no,
it's
no,
actually written out, and it's a little bit more dry than the U.S. or Canada.
yeah.
But one of my favorite UK guys is Jimmy Carr.
Yeah, Jimmy. I like Jimmy Carr. Yeah, because he's close to the bone, and I like that close to the bone. That's like yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I like Jimmy Carr. Also, John Bishop's really good as well at
yeah.
Liverpool. Yeah, and there's another really funny guy. I'm just trying to think of his name. He does a really good. He's from Essex. He's Londoner,
Okay.
Cockney, proper Cockney geezer. I think of his name in a minute. He's really good, but I could give you some good recommendations because obviously being where you know in America now, your comedian's gonna be American centric, I would
Yeah.
imagine. Obviously, mine are British centric, but I do watch a bit of things like the Comedy Channel, and you know I catch a few. I mean, obviously you get Americans coming touring UK, and obviously you get a lot of Brits over there as well.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, so
Well,
but
when I can fly again, I'll fly over and we'll go watch some comedy shows over there.
yeah, definitely.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do as entertainment is go watch comedy shows. I used to do. There used to be a comedy night in Cardiff in a pub by me, and
Yep.
then we got in with the Comedy Store and what's the Glee Club.
Okay. Yep.
Do you know those brands? The Glee, they're like comedy brands that they started opening up all in all the big towns and cities, like you know.
Yep.
And yeah, I've been to see quite a few shows, you know, a few comedians there. Also, one of my favourite genres of TV programs is comedy panel shows.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, especially if they're sports combined as well, because you know, two of my big passions is business and sport. I'd say
Yeah.
probably comedy's up there then with my passion for entertainment.
Yeah.
And
Who's
so
your football team?
I like Liverpool. We just
Okay.
won the Premier League last season. I've been a Liverpool fan since I was 4, so I didn't just jump on the bandwagon because they're successful at the moment.
Yeah.
But I've been supporting them since I was 4. They were successful then in the 70s and 80s, and then he went had a bit of a dry spell, and then we started doing well again the last sort of 10 years really, and that culminated in a Champions League a few years ago and a Premier League last year.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, but also a sport that you'll know being Canadian, which the Americans don't know too much about. I'm a massive rugby fan as well.
Yep.
Yeah, so I played rugby. Let's see, I was a number 8, so I was, you know, back of the scrum, you know, mixing with the backs and the forwards.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some, you know, Welsh. This is the Grand Slam winning team of 2005 here,
That's great.
which was one of the best days of my life. Like it was, again, as a rugby fan, Wales were great in the 70s, and they're not so good in the 80s and 90s, which is when I was growing up, because I was born late 70s. They were like as good as the All Blacks in the 70s. Like, you know, they had all the best players, Gareth Edwards and Phil Bennett and, you know, people like that. And I missed all of that decade. And then, because I was like born in 77, we had a bit of a dry spell in the 80s and the 90s. And so I had about like 20, 25 years of pain growing up as a Welsh rugby fan, being not very good. And in 2005, we won the Grand Slam, which is we beat everyone else. We won every game. And since then, we won about 5 titles in the last like 15 years.
Well, that's good. That's really good. I mean, that's dynasty, right? That's like the Patriots or, you know, the Montreal Canadiens in hockey or the Edmonton Oilers. Or the Yankees of baseball, right?
Yeah, or like Liverpool, like now in the Premier League. Before that, it was Chelsea. Then before that, Man United. It's been also Man City as well. Liverpool and Man City are the two dominant. But yeah, you tend to have like I notice in sport, you tend to have like a decade of success quite often because teams can last a decade. You know, especially if you just, you know, as they start getting older players, you bring a couple of youth in, and you can, you know, you can build a good successful team for 10, 15 years, sometimes 20. Then sooner or later the management retires, or, you know, things change, someone else comes along, and then it's their dominant period for a while, like, you know.
Yeah. Almost similar to sales too, right? We're talking business and sports, and in sales sometimes you have like a great 3-year run, and then you gotta come back down a little bit, and then you back up.
Like life's about a roller coaster, isn't it? I don't think you can consistently be up, and I don't think you can consistently be down. You can't consistently plateau. It's you know, life is full of rhythms, and you know, it's the ups and downs of life. And I think, you know, business, sport, comedy, pandemic, whatever. You know, speaking, I think you know, sometimes you're hot, sometimes you're cold, and that's just life. You know.
Yeah. No, exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Were you at that game, the championship game?
I wasn't actually. It was hard to get tickets back then. I wasn't as well connected. Now I can get tickets for pretty much anything, like, you know. Yeah. But for the final, I couldn't get tickets for the final. I could get tickets for it earlier on in the season, but back then as well, I was more spending my money, the same amount of money that it would cost to buy a ticket. You could spend on the pop all day and watch it in the
Okay.
pub. So I used to watch the games like in the pub because you get
Yep.
the games in Cardiff anyway. So you get all the atmosphere and you get all of the town and that, but you can spend all your money on drink rather than going to the game. Yeah. But for the final, they put it on big screen TVs in like open land in the city
Yep.
centre. So it was
Yep.
like a fan zone. Yeah. I was just that was the best day of my life, I think, because it was 25 years of pain, and then it was
Yeah.
like a grand slam, and then like I say, it was just a mad party, like and the team that was in town for us to beat at the end was Ireland, and Irish people like to have a party whether they win or lose.
Yeah.
So it was just the whole city having a party, like and so it was just a great occasion, a great party, and it reminded me a little bit at the time of the LA riots. Remember the LA, like when
A
when
little bit different.
it was a little bit different, but no, it was like like the LA riots where people were driving past and tooting their horns, and it was just a chaos. Well, the
Yeah.
city centre just turned into chaos, right? And people
Yeah.
were drinking that much, right? Because the Welsh people like to drink like the Irish, and people were drinking that much, right? That people were walking down the street from like the whole of town centre run out of alcohol and run out of booze, and people were walking to the out of town shops and coming back with crates of beer on their shoulder and stuff to carry on the party because the town centre was like selling out of alcohol. It
Yeah.
was
No,
crazy.
that reminds me, we had the Winter Olympics in 2010 in Vancouver,
Yeah,
and I was living there. And the big day, the final day was a gold medal game between Canada and the U.S., the big rivals, right?
yeah, yeah,
And so my brother and I, the game started at 11. We got to the pub at 9, right? You have to have breakfast.
yeah.
Um,
A
and the
liquid
game got
lunch, a
over
liquid
by
breakfast.
1 o'clock, and then everybody was downtown Vancouver. And I've never been claustrophobic, but I felt like I was just being squished. Like there was tens of thousands of people
Yeah,
downtown hooping, hollering, guys walking around with bottles and beers, and it was a fun day. It
yeah. I
was
love, I
best
love
sport.
those days. Where you can taste the atmosphere, where it's that thick. The atmosphere is that thick that you can taste it.
Yeah,
I'm lucky because Cardiff is the capital city, and that's where I'm from, and that's where I've lived most of my life.
yeah,
And we got the Millennium Stadium, which is like we built one of the best stadiums in the world for the
yeah,
turn of the millennium, so it's 20 years old. And
yeah,
obviously, I was like 23 when it was built, and for the last 20 years, we've been getting a lot of major events there. We used to always have big events anyway, because we'd have the Welsh games and Welsh football games, Welsh rugby games, and all of that, because we're the capital city of Wales. For the last 20 years, we've been getting like big concerts, and we've been getting like we've had the UEFA Cup final for the football, and we've had like a bit of the London 2012 Olympic Games spilt into Wales, and
yeah,
all sorts of stuff, so it's great because I any big like London 2012 Olympics, you go to London normally, nobody speaks to each other, nobody says anything, you sit on the public transport, nobody says a
yeah,
word, because I come from a more rurally place and a more friendly place. We're all used to talking to each other and speaking to each other and stuff. And when I go to London, I like to pickle people's brains by stopping them and asking them the time or the directions or something. They're like, who's this like person talking to me? Like, you know what I mean? They just don't speak to each other, like, no.
yeah,
But when the London 2012 games was on, obviously all the Olympic fans were in, and all the friendly people of the world were in, the Olympics and, Common Cause and all of that. And London was just an amazing place I went up there for a few days and it was just awesome, full of
yeah.
great people having a good time.
Everybody was on their best behavior.
Yeah, 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 and chatting, people chatting on the tube and just having a laugh. Everyone's like, you can see everyone's got the Olympics gear on, and so you're all part of the same crowd, like.
Yeah, no. Sports is, it bonds people together
Yeah.
like none other, and pushes people apart. I mean, there's riots and fights and
Oh,
everything
yeah.
else at some of the games, and obviously different countries. Most of it's probably fueled by booze, but who knows?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. So, so some sports are a bit more. I think the ones that are a bit more working class, they tend to be more
Yep.
tribal, and they tend to be more, them and us, and fighting and stuff. But the sports that are a bit more middle class, if you like, they tend to be more fans getting on together and drinking, and decent banter, but not fighting. But that's what it's like in the UK.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. So what did you? So you had a career in sales, and obviously you do sales
Yep.
coaching and sales training now. Um,
Yep.
I have heard a story of you before about being on the ship before, and I guess that was like a multi-level marketing type sales, was it?
No, no. I've most of my sales career was in sports. So I
Okay.
sold professional hockey, professional football, which is now the Major League of Soccer here in the States.
Yeah.
It's not,
MLS. Yeah, the MLS.
yeah, MLS. It's not comparable to your league. I mean, you guys are way above, but that's our top tier.
Yeah, you,
So I
you get
sold that,
quite a
and I
lot of
sold.
retiring stars there, didn't you? And Wayne Rooney, Frank
Yeah.
Lampard, who
Well,
else?
even what's his name,
Thierry
Beckham.
Henry, Pele,
Yeah,
David Beckham.
yeah, Lady
Yeah,
Beckham.
yeah, because David Beckham's got his own franchise, haven't he? No.
Yeah, yeah. I believe that out of Miami.
Yeah, that's right.
Is where
Miami,
magicians or no?
Miami, is it Real Miami?
Real in Miami, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, I sold both tickets and sponsorships and the luxury suites,
Yeah,
and
okay.
then got into software sales and had an opportunity. I think I shared the story with you before about getting up in Las Vegas and performing in front of 4,000 colleagues
Yeah.
impromptu,
But
and
that was
that's kind
software. That was software sales, was it?
yeah, software sales. So
Software.
and I'd been doing stand up for about 6 weeks before that. And then after that whole thing, I thought, wow, I can do this anywhere and people are going to pay me for anything.
Yeah.
I was sorely mistaken.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Took me a while to go up
It's
the
a bit
ranks.
tougher. It's a bit tougher than that. It's quite a tough industry to crack, I suppose.
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't go to school for it, right? And if you're just stepping on stage for the first time, it's not like, when you're in grade school, you're playing soccer or football, right?
Yeah.
And you work your way up and you go to high school and you get on the varsity team and, you're always playing football. But
Yeah.
with stand up, I've always been funny, but it's a different thing to get up and be funny in front of a crowd that you don't even know,
No, it's a lot
right?
more structured. It's a lot more structured than people think. There's a
Oh,
lot of
there's a method to the madness.
yeah, a lot of work, a lot of effort goes into creating something that can sometimes look unordered and
Yeah,
chaos, but it's
yeah.
usually very structured.
There's a lot of nights where it's really crappy, right?
Yeah,
You're performing in front of 5, 6 people.
yeah,
Um, I also had the opportunity. This was a couple of weeks before I did the thing in Vegas, impromptu, unexpected. But there was an open mic in a pub in Vancouver, and Robin Williams happened to be in town filming Midnight at the Museum. And so I was on the 7 o'clock show. There was 5 of us. I was the third person up, and he had 5 minutes. So I got up there, and there was probably 7 or 8 people in the pub, including the bartender, right? So it's nobody's there, but you're working on your craft, hoping to get to be a headliner.
yeah.
And about halfway through my set, the door opened up, and in walked Robin Williams. And in my head, I'm like, holy crap, that's Robin Williams.
Yeah.
So I waved from the stage, and it was very awkward. But then I'd been around enough celebrities from selling hockey tickets that I've learned that if you treat a celebrity like anybody else, like if you blow them off like they're just a regular Joe Blow, they absolutely love it because nobody does.
Yes, that's right.
Like, oh, what do you do? How do you put your pants on? Same as me, that kind of thing, right? So he went and sat down at the bar, and I finished my set and went and sat down beside him. I'm like, hey, how's it going? He's like, oh, pretty good. He goes, oh, you're pretty funny. I'm like, oh, thanks. I go, I'm just starting, but it's fun. I go, what do you do? And he goes, oh, I'm in the movie industry. And I said, oh, what do you do? Are you the camera guy? You hold the mic? And he kind of looked at me, and I said, and he goes, no, I've Goodwill Hunting, Mrs. Doubtfire. I'm like, oh, you're the guy. He's like, fuck off. And right then we laughed. I made him laugh, right? And that's that instant connection. So
Yeah.
we sat at the bar for the next 45 minutes and had drinks and
Nice.
just telling stories about comedy and how he came up and what I was doing with sales and stuff. And
Yeah.
then at the end of the show, the guy who ran the room came up and said, "Hey, we'd love it if you want to get up and do some stand up. We would be thrilled." And now there's about 20 people in the room, right? Robin went up and did 2 hours impromptu.
Nice.
And by the end of the show, there's 300 people in the bar. They're charging $20 to get in. People are taking, it was a phenomenal night, and I thought that was it. So afterwards, he came up to me before he left and he said, "Hey, do you want an autograph or a picture? What can I do?" So I'm like, "I would love a picture, man." So we got this picture, and I look at it now, and he's shorter, and he's got all the makeup on from doing. He just finished filming, right, and then came to the pub. And so the next night, there's another open mic downtown at another club, at the Real Comedy Club, Yuck Yucks, and I was going to do my same 5 minutes again, and I was walking there with my buddy Ian, and I hadn't told Ian the story yet, right? So we were walking, talking, trying to work out our jokes and stuff. And about 20 meters from going into the club, Ian starts elbowing me. He's like, dude. I go, "What?" He goes, "Robin Williams." And so I looked up and I'm like, "Hey, Robin." And Robin Williams is like, "Hey, Greg, how's it going?"
Brilliant.
He crapped himself, right? But he was such a loving, gracious human being. He's like, "Where are you guys going?" I said, "Well, there's another open mic." He's like, "Can I come along?" So we're like, "Sure." So now Robin's coming into the club, but just before we get in, he goes, "Hey, I would love to get on, but just don't make it about me. Make it about you guys. Just tell the guy, go, hey, we got our buddy Robin. He would love to go do some stand-up comedy if you give him some time." So we walked in and we said, "Hey, we got a friend Robin, can he get a 5 spot?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, sure. Is he any good?" I'm like, "Yeah, he's pretty good." So Robin comes into the green room. So here's Ian and I, and then all these other comedians are like, "How the hell do they know Robin Williams?" But it was just a chance thing, right?
It's a crazy world. I actually met my idol, right? Not my
Who?
idol then. I didn't know him at the time. He's my idol now, really. He's my inspiration for wanting to become a global speaker and that.
Yeah.
And that's a guy you'll know as well. And that's Grant Cardone.
Okay, great.
I
Where'd
ended
you
up
meet
in a
Grant?
meeting with Grant Cardone. I didn't even know who he was when I was in the
Yeah.
meeting. It was a chance meeting, but he's the person who inspired me to become a global speaker because I ended up in a meeting with him. Long story short, but he ended up coming to the UK for a tour,
Yeah.
a 10X tour, and one of the stops on his 3-stop tour was the Introbiz Expo, which is
Okay.
where I work now, but they used to be friends of mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so I actually went to a 2-day event in London prior to him coming to Cardiff for the expo, and I listened to Grant Cardone for 2 days.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I didn't learn anything off him. I learned stuff off him, but not content-wise,
Yeah.
because he'd been in sales for 35 years at that time. I've been in sales for 32 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So although he was way older than me, he didn't start selling until he was 25. I started when I was 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I really realised when I was listening to Grant was I know what he knows. He's just operating on a much bigger level than me, Why don't I just take what I know and get to the same level?
Yeah.
So he pushed the button in my head that just was like seriously? Like this guy's a billionaire and he knows the same stuff as me. Nothing wrong with the stuff he knows. I know some great stuff. But he didn't know anything more than what I knew. He was just operating at a bigger level,
Yeah.
Well,
That's great. And I think it's, meeting him at his level, you didn't think of him as a god or your hero. It was refreshing to him, right?
He just,
let's talk shop.
I love him. I do. He reminds me of a 20-year-old version of me. He's like me 20 years time. You know what I mean? The area I've learned off him a lot, because I study him quite a lot, from afar. And obviously he knows a lot more about property and property development and all that side of things. But when it comes to sales and marketing and stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if I probably knew a bit more than him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the content, and like you said, he's at another level. But once you're in the sales and you know how to build relationships and hustle, that's it, man. If you know how to be nice to people and be empathetic and care about people, and work your tail off, the sky's the limit, right?
Yeah, exactly. And people are amazed at how much Grant Cardone works because he never stops. So that's exactly the same as me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I look at him, whereas people look at him in awe and think like, this man's on the go all the time. I look at him and just think he's like me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't look at him in awe and like thinking like, how does this man do what he does? Because I know how I do what I do. Just full of energy to do it. You just do it, don't you? Like, you know?
Yeah, no, that's cool, and it's fun when you can meet people like that. But yeah, that night was great, and after he got up, he went and did another hour and a half, 2 nights in a row, and it was just phenomenal. And I never got to see him again, but I always remember now looking back, he passed from suicide,
Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago now.
It was sad.
He was so gracious and so humble, and the fact that he wanted me to look good and have that feeling of importance. When he did, we met 24 hours before, 12 hours, 24 hours before, whatever it was, right? But he always cared about people, and he loved making people laugh. That was his thing, and he did it probably better than anybody else I'd ever seen live.
Yeah, he was a very funny man. He was a very funny man, and yeah, it was sad to find out that he was suffering from mental health issues. You mentioned it earlier on, with your comedy group, and that was the reason I actually started my podcast. Was I called it a positivity podcast because I started at the start of lockdown, and I knew that the mental health was going to start becoming a problem because some people just can't cope with being locked down. Like, I've quite enjoyed it myself, but I'm quite happy anywhere. You know what I mean? I choose to be happy, and I'll find the best of most situations. And I know some people, they're different. They're in their own head. They can't get out of it. They have bad thoughts, and it just evolves. And some people just they need a routine, and they don't like it being disturbed. So locking them up, if you like, for a while, they can't cope with it. So all these things I could see were going to happen. I went through the global credit crunch, so I knew it was going to go the same way. And that's why I started my podcast. And I think it's great to you starting groups and, whatever you can do to help people have a bit of a release, get a bit of positivity, stop listening to the negative, news and the social media and all this, and have a bit of positivity in their life.
Yeah, no, and that's great. And as far as mental health, laughter goes a long ways, but the fact that we're actually talking about this on a podcast and we barely know each other, we're breaking down those walls of stigmatism, right? People like, oh, it's a weakness. It's not we don't choose mental health, right? No. It's an illness that everybody goes through. When somebody has cancer, how can we help? Can we bring food? What can we do? Can we drive you around to your doctor's appointments? But it's getting better, but it's still like, oh, they have bipolar. Oh, scary. It's not scary. They're normal human beings, and we need to be able to talk about it so that you and I can have a conversation like this. I can call you up and go, Mike, how's your mental health? Are you doing all right? And if you're like, well, I'm kind of down in the dumps, well, let's talk about it, or go find professional help to help you. Because, if you had cancer, I'm like, well, how's your health? Oh, I have cancer. I'm not going to do anything about it. Right? It's the same thing. So that I think it's great that we're talking about it because we can help other people overcome, their feelings. And especially now, the suicide rates have gone up globally because of the pandemic. We're 8 months in, and it's nauseating. I now know what my dog goes through every day. I look out my window and, I'm waving at the neighbors. And twice a day, my wife lets me out and I go take a dump on their lawn.
Wagging your tail to get back in. Yeah.
And barking at people.
To be fair, I actually don't think the wave of mental health problems and the effects have really kicked in yet. Unfortunately, it's a sad. Yes, there have been lots of people with mental health problems, but I think the actual the tsunami that's coming still haven't reached the shores yet. And I don't want that to happen, but I just think realistically it's going to, because at the moment people have been, like in the UK, people have been put on furlough. They've been given financial support and help and that sort of thing, but a lot of that's running out. The businesses have been propped up, you know what I mean? But a lot of them are going to go, and then you're going to have, suicides from, financial troubles and all these sort of stuff. And I don't want to see it coming, but I think it's coming.
But yeah, but talking about it, and if we can get out ahead of the tsunami
Yeah.
and talk to people and build relationships, especially for guys, right? I mean, there's a higher percentage of guys
Yeah,
that take their lives by suicide. But
yeah.
if we can talk about it and just a simple question: how's your mental fitness? How you doing? You struggling? Well, let's talk about it, or let's reach out and get the help, because with help and a plan and medication, people live with it and do fantastic. It's just it's people helping people, and I think we've gotten away from that in society. We need to get back caring for each other, as much as we do for our families and our loved ones.
Yeah, well, we met on a speaker training course, and
Yep.
and obviously we're both learning to become better speakers. Although we both communicated most of our lives, if you like, for a job, we both looking to take that to another level, if you like. And part of what I want to communicate and speak to people about is actually that no matter how bad they think life is or life can get, that it's always overcomable. No matter how people. I hate to see people taking their own life. Life is so precious and so important, and I don't understand why people get to that point where they think like there's no coming back from whatever the situation is, because there's always a way back. And that's
Absolutely.
I want to educate people and teach people that they're not alone, because I think a lot of the time they think they're alone, and I think because they're alone and they got no support structure and no one to help them, they're like, I can't come back from this. But as I say, the rainbow always comes after a storm, no matter how long the storm is. There's always a bit of light at the end of the tunnel, and there is always a way back. And there are always people, even if it's strangers, even if you've got nobody in the world, there are always people out there willing to help. And I'm one of those. I'll help someone, if I can help.
And I appreciate that, and that's what bonds us. I mean, we're speakers, and that's how we make our living. But more importantly, we're changing lives. We're helping other people. And not to say that you and I don't have crappy days, because we do. We're human, right? But we've learned how to bounce back after those. And some of the times that I remember, even one event, I was doing a show. It was at a hotel next to a hospital, and I was emceeing. So I would do 5 minutes and bring somebody up in between and whatnot. And about 10 minutes into the show, a father and son came and sat down in the front row, grabbed their beers, totally not engaged at the show at all. They weren't laughing. They were just kind of talking to each other and stuff. So I'm like, hey, how are you guys doing? Oh, we're from out of town. And, just trying to get them a part of the crowd. And towards the end, they started laughing. And so I went up to them after the show, and we're having beers and just talking. I'm like, oh, so you guys said you're from out of town. What are you doing in town? He said, well, my wife passed away from cancer last night. And my son and I have not laughed in months, because she went through the whole thing, and she finally passed last night. And we're staying in the hotel, and we walked by and we heard laughter. So we thought we'd come down and check it out. And he said, this has been absolutely well. It's exactly what we needed. But I had no idea. The comics had no idea. So you never know when you or I get up and speak and tell our stories and how to be positive, who it's going to affect, right? And I'll never see them again. But for that moment, I felt like a rock star, because me engaging with them and getting them to laugh changed their perspective. And they knew that life will get better, even though, his wife and his mom had passed away.
Yeah.
So.
But that's the thing, sometimes you need to laugh through dark times to get through the dark times,
Yeah.
So yeah. I think we'll leave it there. I think I've had a great conversation. I told you.
Absolutely.
I have 45-minute chats, but often they go further. It all depends how you connect and on what level. And it stopped being a podcast a long time ago, with just a chat between two friends.
Well, and in the UK, it's probably your bedtime now too.
Yeah, well, I've got a 10 o'clock call. It's 9:30 now, so in 30 minutes I got a call with Clinton Young, who was doing our training to go through his review and everything. So actually, I'm going to have a 10 till 11 probably chat with him, and then it'll be time for bed. But
and then nighttime. Yeah, well, no, I really appreciate you having me on, and I would love to showcase you and what you do to the Humor Lab, right? Get you in front of 9,000 people Obviously, a lot of them are on stateside, but we've got people all over the world. It would be great to have a conversation there. So I'll follow up and go from there.
Yeah, definitely. I'm on a mission at the moment just to become really, really known, really around the world because I wanna get top speaking gigs.
Yeah.
So, so unlike with yourself when you said it was hard to get the comedy gigs and that. What I would have had as a strategy then is to put on my own comedy night and be my own headliner, and that's what I'm probably going to do for speaking. I'm going to create my own massive event and be the headline speaker at it.
Absolutely. Well, if you need an opener, let me know. I'll fly over.
Definitely.
Or go into my office. We can do it virtually.
Yeah, I've got a mastermind on a Sunday, 2:00 in the afternoon, so we can cater for Americans.
Yeah.
And it's called Strong Communicators, and I put that mastermind together so that we can all learn from each other because they're all strong communicators, podcasters, speakers, PR people, social influencers, people like that. And the ultimate goal for that mastermind is to do an event with me as the headline, and then everyone else as the support act, and we all promote it together. That's part of my vision, it's my vision board. So if you want to,
I think you're smarter than Grant Cardone even with that. That's a great idea. And I put on numerous comedy shows where I was a headliner, right? And then by doing that, then people are like, well, he can do it. Let's book him.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm a strategist, I am, and I would probably say I'm a bit smarter than Grant Cardone, to be honest. Grant Cardone was a car salesman and then a trainer. Yeah. I love Grant Cardone. I think he's awesome. But Grant Cardone is what I would say. I used to be a double glazing salesman, door to door, 16 to 21. I was. Yeah.
Wow.
And
that's the toughest sales out there.
And that was like car sales, right? Double glazing, car sales, very similar sort of level. I then I did a lot of B2B sales for a while. So radio advertising, newspaper advertising, mobile phones, CCTV, all that sort of stuff. But then I actually started in a credit reference agency. It was a tech startup called Credit Safe. They're big in America now, but they were just starting up then. And I run the corporate sales team for 8 out of the 10 years. I was one of the 2 top sellers for 10 years out of 250 employees. And we were IT solution salespeople. We were selling business data and financial data online for SMEs and via XML and integrations and bulk data transfers and all that sort of thing to corporates. And I used to deal with the 10 million plus turnover businesses. And I took on a telesales team of 7 people, grew it into a department of 17 people, all doing field sales. And I trained all of that team, and we developed the solutions and all of that. So I would say that's a much more sophisticated, higher level of solution technical selling than car sales is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it is a little bit more of it's a bit more sophisticated, a bit more nuanced as a sale than just car sales, which is more emotive and more, more
emotion and
But Grant Cardone's a great sales guy. Like I'm not taking anything away from him, but I just think I'm probably a little bit more nuanced and a bit more, technically minded and stuff
Exactly.
Yeah, so, Grant knows far more than I do on property, but it's an area I want to learn on. But that's why I did ask you, but you missed the question, so I let it go. But I did ask you what software you were selling.
Oh, sorry, SAP.
Oh, SAP, yeah. Yeah, so
I don't know what I did, but I sold it.
we used to sell business data, the whole business data unit in the UK. Yeah. So limited company and non-limited company data, marketing data, financial data. And people used to take our feed from XML or bulk data transfer and put it into their software. So into CRM systems, into e-commerce platforms, into
e-commerce everything. Yeah, no, we did business analytics was my specialty. Yeah. So we sold business objects and SAP as well.
Yeah, there we are, yeah.
Well, good. Well, thanks again, Mike. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, give us the address again for the group and how people get in touch with you for the coaching and training and stuff.
Yeah, probably the easiest for the coaching and speaking is just my website, gregkettner.com, GREGKETTNER. And the Humor Lab is on Facebook. It's just The Humor Lab.
Okay.
So brilliant. 2 words, The Humor Lab.
Yeah. And have you got a YouTube channel?
Yeah, Greg Kettner. Everything is Greg Kettner. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter,
You
Facebook.
should set up a Humour Lab YouTube channel as well and get people to do recordings on that as well.
That's great. Good call. I'll get to it.
Yeah, get to it.
See, you are a good salesman.
And you should also do the Humour Lab podcast.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I'm working on it, and one thing at a time.
Yeah, brilliant.
I feel like I'm, you know.
You've got 9,000 people there that you can get on and showcase and have a chat about on the Humour Lab and destruct their routines or whatever. You know, there's lots of things you can do there.
No, it'll be good.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, then.
All right.
Been awesome having you on the podcast, and look forward to the next time.
Likewise, Mike. Take care, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, all right, then. All the best. Cheers.
All right, cheers.
Right, there's nothing else left to say other than have a great day. I know I will. And thanks very much for listening. Cheers. Bye-bye.